welcome. My name is Ann Zaprazny, and we're doing community conversations. And I'm excited to feature and chat with my sister, Jane Herchenroder. Welcome.
Good morning.
Jane is the founder and the owner of Herchenroder Law, and today we're talking everything legal. Jane, what's top of mind on your clients today?
Well, I like to talk about people having their important legal papers ready during this pandemic. So I have some documents that are simple estate documents I would like to talk about.
So, people are stressed, a lot of uncertainty, and, certain states are a mess and certain states aren't. But how can you help people reduce their stress right now?
Well, the documents I'm going to talk about were always important. But when this pandemic hit, you and I talked about how it's even more important. I thought, well, people would not pay as much attention, but the pandemic has gone on longer than we thought. And now we have all groups of essential workers who are really worrying and working the front line. So before we were thinking about nurses and doctors, but now we have teachers who are worried. So I think that if people do one or four of my suggested important personal simple estate planning documents, they might reduce some of their worries that they have right now.
I think of estate planning. People might think like, oh, that's for the wealthy. When you talk about estate planning, really, what are you talking about?
Well, that's the other misconception, is that estate planning is for the wealthy, or that it's for the old, or that it's for the married, or it's for people with children. But there really is a place for simple estate planning for all ages and all circumstances. And again, I come back to wanting to talk about 4 documents that when someone even tells me they want one of these 4 documents, I mention the other 3, and then I pick the one, or the client picks the one or all 4 that they feel they need and would also lessen their worries in this time.
So you mentioned 4 documents. So can you list those documents and then let's walk through them maybe one by one.
I'm going to put them in the order that I think they're important today. It's not the same order I get asked about, but right now the living will is the first important document. And then the second important document is the medical power of attorney. The third document is a will. And then the 4th document is a financial power of attorney.
All right, so let's break it down. What's a living will?
So I had put the living will first on my list because also from watching TV and the news, doctors have talked about the fact that during the pandemic, people are not allowed visitors. So if someone does a living will properly and they give a copy to their medical providers, if there is some emergency that arises where the doctors cannot talk to either the patient or their family, the patient has in the living will made certain choices of treatments that they are willing to have or not have. And I was really struck, even though things have calmed down in the Northeast, not out West though, several states are having these issues. I was really struck by it seemed like there was just pandemonium in the hospitals, meaning volume of people who are extremely sick. And if someone has done their living will and it's in the file, we are helping the nurses and the doctors make quick decisions based on what someone has thought about themselves they want for their treatment.
You know what I stress about the living will? We got our paperwork in order. I have a 25-year-old daughter and I have an 18-year-old son. My oldest lives out of state. We don't have this in place. And my 18-year-old son stressed me out a little bit. I can't be alone here, is, hoping to leave for college in a couple of weeks. And, with HIPAA laws, et cetera, the absence of a living will for your adult children is really a stressful situation.
Well, the living will is important for anyone, including them, but that's going to bring me to my second document, the medical power of attorney. The medical power of attorney gives, as an adult, I would give someone else the right to make medical decisions for me. So what I would suggest for young people going off to college, 18, 19, or a single adult in their 20s, that especially when they're out of state, that they should do a medical power of attorney. And if they're going to choose you to be the one to make decisions for them, do that form, make sure it's accepted in the state where they live. And then your child is out of state or sick, you have a form where you could show to the doctor or the nurse that you are allowed to make decisions for that person. And you now have you've had a discussion with your adult child, who is also very young, and you can be on the same page and have a very simple legal tool to make medical decisions for them. I'm concerned that an 18-year-old goes off to another state, gets sick, you show up, and you don't have the right to make the decisions because they're an adult without a medical power of attorney. And so they're both important documents. They have different functions, but they're both important.
Yeah, and you clarified that for me. So it's the absence of the medical power of attorney that stresses me out.
If you want to go help them, as young people, they can have a living will, but they may not want to think about those kinds of treatments. People who are older think about, do they want a ventilator? Do they want artificial feeding? Do they want extraordinary measures? Young people don't think about that. And that's where the second form, I think, is important until they're ready and wanting. And that's to do that form. And that's why when I talk about these 4 forms, many people do all 4, and some do 1, and some do 2. So
well, you know what I like? It's something that people put off all the time, right? So if you're going to step into it, just step into it and get them done. It took us, my sister's an attorney. It took my family over 3 years to get our act together and get it all done. And now we got kids over 18, and we have gaps in what I call our sleep insurance.
So here's the other thing is I noticed that a lot of people don't like to make these decisions. So I say, you know what? Let's make the decision with what you know today. You change your mind next year, it's on the computer. It's a small change. Or you have a life change. Maybe as a single person, you make certain decisions. When you're married, you might make other decisions. You are a renter, you might make one decision. But now you're a homeowner, you might make other decisions. And so that's what I say to my clients. If they have trouble with some of these forms, one time I had someone come and we did all 4, but she couldn't make her living will choices at the signing. I said, okay, let's do the 3. Let's get it done. Take the living will home, think about it. We'll do it after you can think about it. Or do it today. And if you change your mind, it's in the computer. It's not a hard change to make. So people have life changes too. If they have children, they may need to to edit these things. So.
All right. So we talked about 2 of the documents. What's the next in order of priority?
Well, the next one is the will, and that's the document that people normally ask me about first. And people watch the news, then they get upset, and they're afraid they're going to die without a will, which is interesting. Most people do in their will what the state would do if they didn't have a will. So the idea that, you die, you don't have a will, the state gets all your property, that's really not true. What the benefit of the will is that you make things easier for your family to get what you want to give to them for whatever reason. Also, you don't make a family member go to the surrogate and apply to represent your estate. And when you do that, in New Jersey at least, the person who applies to be we call it an administrator, they have to get a bond and get a credit check. I've actually had some clients step up to be the administrator for their family member, and they couldn't afford the bond or want to get the bond. They couldn't, they had not great credit. So when you do a will, you can name the executor for your estate. That's the person who does what you want them to do with your assets. You can say no bond is needed. And so then your wishes, are met. And normally I would think if you have things, you have them and you want to give them to people with ease. You don't want to say, oh, I'm not around, I don't care. I mean, that's why people accumulate things, because they want to give them to other people, either their spouse or their siblings or their children.
Yeah, so very interesting. I never thought of like, my failure to get a will done creates an enormous burden on my loved ones, right? It's almost like if I'm intentional to get the will done, it's a gift to my loved ones. It's a gift.
You have something, my thinking is you want to give it to other people. And why would you make it hard? That's all.
And at a time
I
of
mean,
loss, right? At a time of loss, the those behind are grieving, and as easy as you can make it really is just something that most people don't even think about.
also in a will, you can designate someone to make your funeral arrangements, which is a nice thing to do. I mean, small families, a spouse, people often are on the same page, but a lot of people aren't. And that's the other benefit of all of these documents. If someone does a living will, or they have a medical power of attorney, or they have a will, the power of the written word is very important. And other people who might want to cause controversy will see that the person who did these documents, this is what they wanted. It's very powerful.
Well, you made me smarter. What's the fourth document?
Well, the last document is called a financial power of attorney. So people who are married, for the most part, have joint accounts where they each have access. But a lot of married people don't. A lot of married people have separate accounts, or people could be widowed or single. So a financial power of attorney is really a very delicate document. You pick someone you trust, just like you do with the medical power of attorney, but you want to pick someone to handle your finances and legal affairs for you. But it has to be someone you trust. And that's why I would never force all four of these documents on somebody. But if someone doesn't have it and they are single, and then they become incompetent and unable to make decisions for themselves, then the family member would have to go to court and have a court case to become their guardian and spend legal fees, even even legal fees for the person they want to become guardian of. So again, this is something, if you have someone you trust. Now, if you don't have someone you trust, it's just not worth doing, because we have people who abuse the elderly, and then they get a financial power of attorney and they self deal. That's not what this is for. This is so that somebody you trust can handle your financial and legal affairs.
So we're kind of in the time of COVID. I don't get so excited about going into other people's offices. You know, how could someone work with you in a socially distanced, acceptable way right now?
So I work with everyone where they are. So a lot of people today, where we can, I just did a consultation with someone by Zoom, or I can do a consultation on the phone, or some people know what they want, and I draft documents and we go back and forth sending the documents by email. So say that's the person, we do it by email. When we finally have the documents in final, we will figure out a way for either that person to come to my office and sign in front of witnesses, because it can't be done. It has to be done with original wet signatures, where we wear masks and we socially distance. Or when we have good weather, I could go to someone's house, say, to sign these papers, and we could sit outside on a picnic bench and sign them. So some people are not on the internet. Some of the elderly, I have one client, she wanted a living will. I mailed her the draft in the mail. And when she's ready to sign it, we will figure out a safe way for her to sign it. So it is doable, and I take people where they are. I understand that not everyone is in the same place with technology, but unfortunately, it cannot be done remotely, not in New Jersey.
You know what? These conversations are actually so timely, right? Everybody wanted this COVID pandemic to go away. It's not going away. There's not an easy solution around the corner. I know parents' stress is on the rise because of, the return to school. What's that going to look like? Our teachers are stressed out. Parents sending kids off to school are stressed out. And really what you're saying is, look, let me take one worry off of your plate. Let me help you get some fundamental paperwork under control and in order so that you have the comfort that you need.
Yes, and I work with people where they are. So interestingly, a few years ago, I had a single man. He was a divorced man, and he said he wanted a will. And I went down all the reasons why he should have all four of these documents. I don't want you to think I was trying to upsell. And he really had reasons why he should have had all four. But at the end, he just wanted a will. So I worked with him. That's all I could do. And personally, it's so what if someone doesn't have someone they could trust to take care of their finances? Well, I'm not going to impose that on them. Some very elderly people, I find the living will hard because they're capable to do these documents, but to go through these choices is very hard for a living will. So I work with the person where they are to see what document or documents will help them. I don't want to give them a document they're going to worry about. I want them to be a irresponsible relative to be a financial power of attorney. No.
We have the paperwork in place both for my mother and for my mother-in-law. And with my mother-in-law, what it really allowed was her to have full control of her passing. She was very clear that, she did not want extraordinary efforts taken, and they weren't taken. And, I think about, passing with dignity and passing in a manner that you choose is really a powerful right if we are purposeful to make sure we have the right documents in place. So just bring us to a close, girlfriend. What are the four documents and how can people get a hold of you?
Well, to summarize, they are the living will, the medical power of attorney, a will, and a financial power of attorney. And I will spend whatever time someone needs to let them know which one or all four I think will work for them. I can be reached at 908-231-9222. I'm always happy to give people information, and the fee to my client is only once they decide which one or four documents they want, and we go ahead. Don't forget too that a lot of people are husband and wife, so not just talking about four documents, we could be talking about 8 documents. But like I said, I work with people where they are, and I'm just really grateful to you to give me the opportunity to explain these documents to others.
Yeah, when my husband and I went through the process, I'm in Pennsylvania, so my sister was not my attorney, but she was definitely my coach saying, get it done. It's not hard. It's just about a matter of prioritizing it, right? And so, look, you matter, your family matters, your loved one matters. Make it a priority. Make it a priority. So you can always check out my sister at Herchenroderlaw.com. And really our goal today was just to raise the awareness to the importance of some of these 4 key legal documents. And at a time when your personal stress might be going through the roof, opportunity to take a breath and to say, you know what, I'm going to prioritize and get this done. And I know that when I can focus on a task, it allows my stress to come down because I'm focusing on something that's really important rather than the things I can't control. So thanks for joining us today. Stay well and take care.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.